Hi, good morning. So here is the second video to make up for the lost day on Wednesday, February 5th. So the topic now is Oliver Williamson and the agency problem. So let me start with this little story, I guess. It's kind of quaint to think about free markets and capitalism if we have a real simple economy. If we imagine that we're cavemen and I'm a hunter and you're a gatherer and I'm really good at hunting and I go out and I bring back animals and you're maybe more of a farmer, you're gathering nuts and berries and things like that, and we do some trading. And after a while our economy begins to evolve, and some people are good at building things, some people are good at carpentry or making shoes or things like that, and our economy begins to grow and develop, and we are all trading with one another and creating value for one another, and it all sounds kind of quaint, but that's actually a very simple view of capitalism. It's a very simple view about how we do things, and it's actually outdated by about 150 years. One of the things that's very common in our market system is that people don't always do things for themselves. They actually hire other people to represent their interests. So the people who do the hiring are called principals, and the people who do something for us are called agents. And this leads to some challenges or some problems. But let me have you think about this just kind of for a moment. You hear about agents all the time. So, for instance, athletes, like, somebody's getting ready to, a football player is getting ready to graduate or declares himself eligible for the draft early. He needs an agent, right? So he's not going to negotiate a contract directly with the team. And you think about, well, why is that? Why does a young athlete need an agent to negotiate a contract? Well, part of the reason is that these contracts are complicated. There are all kinds, it's not just a salary, but there's bonuses and all kinds of contingency clauses. What if the athlete gets hurt at some point during the season? How much does he continue to earn? All kinds of things that maybe a young man who's 22 or 23 years old wouldn't always think about. Same thing applies for, if you're a musician and at some point, if you're popular enough, you need an agent to do your booking for you and to understand not only all the technical aspects of the contracts and the conditions of performances and things like that, but what's your worth? Some athlete would be in the same situation. What's a fair value for my labor, for my skills? Athletes, musicians, writers, actors, they all need agents to kind of help them out, to guide them through all the complicated work of getting contracts, and also because agents have specialized knowledge about, for instance, things like market value. So a great example of this is a real estate agent. If I want to sell my house, and I don't really do that very often in my lifetime, maybe once or twice, something like that. And there's a lot of stuff to know about selling a house. There's legal stuff involved and all kinds of things related to the contract, and then what's the right fair value for my house. So I look to a realtor to do some of that work for me and also to bring me some skills and expertise that I don't have myself. Also, the modern corporation is based on agency. So if I buy a share of stock in a company, I'm literally the owner of the company, but I don't run the company. As a matter of fact, I may not know anything about running the company. So I assign others to do it for me. And so the typical modern American corporation, shareholders or the owners of the company create or establish agents, that is the board of directors, to represent their interests. And then these agents, or the board of directors, supervises top management. But this frees the principals, it frees the stockholders from having to run the company themselves. All right, so agency is a common part of capitalism. There's nothing wrong with that, for basically, retaining the services of somebody else to do your work for you, and for their specialized knowledge. Now, here's where the problem becomes. Agents don't always do a good job of representing the interests of their principals. Remember, it's principals like the principal of a school is ALS at the end of it. So agents don't always do a good job. And I'm going to refer to the work of a popular book called Freakonomics, which was written quite a while ago, or I say quite a while, maybe 10 years ago, something like that. And I think there's a sequel, maybe even a movie or something like that about Freakonomics. And Freakonomics took what is usually a dry topic, which is economics, and applied it to some interesting questions about why things are the way they are in our society. So, for instance, the drug trade and things like that. But here's where I want to use the example is that I remember there was one chapter in Freakonomics about real estate agents. And, a real estate agent typically gets about 6% of the selling price of a home. So if I sell my home for $500,000, I keep $470,000 and $30,000. 6% is going to go to the real estate agent. So the real estate agent doesn't get paid until I sell my house. And also, the more I sell my house for, the more money the realtor makes. And so you think, well, our interests are perfectly aligned, right? Well, in Freakonomics, they show us that it's not always the case. That really, for real estate agents, the name of the game is to sell as many houses in as short a period of time as possible. And as a matter of fact, selling the home takes a backseat to the selling price. And so that oftentimes real estate agents steer their principals toward a quick sale, even though it may not be the highest price or the best price. It may be a below market price because the realtor wants to get paid and wants to get paid as soon as possible. And you'll just kind of have to take it on faith, or I would recommend reading the book Freakonomics to find out that in their analysis, they say a lot of times the homeowners would be better off waiting a little while to get a better price rather than taking an early offer. And the early offers tend to be low offers. So the realtors don't always do a great job of representing the interests of the principals or the homeowners because realtors want to sell things. And so we have an agency problem. Sometimes agents don't represent the interests of the principals as well as they should. Why is this the case? There are two things at stake here, two processes. One is called opportunism. It comes from the word opportunity. Realtors have, or not realtors, just all agents. It doesn't make any difference if I'm a sports agent or a literary agent or a theatrical agent or a realtor, or a member of the board of directors. Agents have an opportunity to represent their interests over the interests of the principal. I'm the one with the expertise. I'm the one with the inside knowledge. And I'm the one who's been given the authority to act on behalf of the principal. I can do all kinds of things. When I go down to Panama, one of the things I like to ask my students down there is, all right, let's suppose I'm interested in buying real estate down here. Because there are an awful lot of Americans, people who are my age, who are going down to Panama to retire. And so they're buying homes and buying land and that sort of thing. So if I get off the plane and I want to buy real estate in Panama, what are the chances I'm going to be ripped off? Somebody's going to try to, they're going to misrepresent their land. They're going to try to sell me land that's sitting on top of a garbage dump or a toxic waste site, or they're going to misrepresent the nature of the land or something like that. Or they sell it to me at a really extraordinarily high price, much more than it's worth. What are the chances I'm going to get ripped off? And the answers are usually about 100%. If I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to get ripped off. And by the way, the reverse would also probably be true here in the United States. If somebody just got off the plane from another country and started trying to look around and buy real estate on their own, the chances that they're going to get a good deal is pretty remote. So one of the things that's usually recommended if you're going to go down to a country like Panama or almost anywhere else in the world and try to get a good deal is you're going to find an agent. You're going to find a good, reputable real estate agent. Now, what are the chances I'm going to get ripped off now if I've got a good real estate agent? Well, they're going to go from 100% down to something less than 100%, maybe 70%, maybe 40%, maybe 20%. Kind of obviously depends on the real estate agent. It's not going to go down to zero, but it is going to go down. But the fact that it's not zero says something, that there's an agency problem, that whoever it is I hire could be dishonest, and it could be that their natural inclination is to represent their own interests first and my interests second. This is almost natural. So part of it is, again, they have this opportunity. They have, based on their skills and their knowledge and their expertise and everything else, the agent has an opportunity to advance his or her interests over mine every time, and so they're going to do that. The second part of the agency problem is bounded rationality, and this really reflects what happens from the point of view of the principal. We all make rational decisions. We all make rational decisions up to a point. I can't be a perfectly rational decision maker in an environment where I have almost an infinite amount of information, or even a lot of information. It's just too much for me to process. I can only think through complicated problems so far. I can only anticipate so much. I've only got so much time. I've only got so much interest. I've only got so much skill on my own to really be able to evaluate a deal. So if a real estate agent brings me a deal and puts it out in front of me, and it is pages and pages and pages of a contract, and I'm looking at it and I'm trying to follow it, maybe I understand the basic mechanisms of net present value or what determines market analysis or something like that. But at some point, I'm going to be overwhelmed. I can only think rationally up to a certain point. My rationality is bounded or limited within, if you will, a certain comfort zone. Outside of that comfort zone, with too much information or with a limited amount of time, I can't make a fully informed best decision. So opportunism and bounded rationality tend to help contribute to the so-called agency problem. All right, you're going to see when you look at Donna Wood's description of all this that there's this 2x2 matrix, and the real heart of the matter here is, so what do we do about this? And an awful lot of the circumstances, and where you wind up and which of the 4 cells or 4 little windows of this 2x2 matrix, I'm not quite as concerned about. But I think the real key message here is that for an awful lot of principals, they try to protect themselves by engaging in what's called comprehensive clause contracting. And so I'm going to encourage you to take a look at what comprehensive clause contracting is. Principals trying to protect themselves through the so-called comprehensive contracting, and it almost defines itself, I think. And that's fine, or at least there's obviously a good rationale reason behind having comprehensive clause contract, but it also has a cost. Actually, it has significant costs. It has significant disadvantages, and it's not nearly as preferable as what she calls general clause contracting. So I would encourage you to take a look at what general clause contracting, and consider why general clause contracting, all things considered equal, tends to be preferable to comprehensive clause contracting. Now that's all well and good if we have a choice between two things and one of them is preferable to the other. All right, why don't I pick the preferable one each and every time? Why isn't general clause contracting always used? And the answer is that it has as its necessary condition trust. That trust is an essential condition of general clause contracting. If you look a little bit more at what she says about each form of contracting, that kind of makes sense. So that's going to be the end of tape 2, and we'll make one more to make up for our lost class time.